Welcome back to week 2 of Jacob's NFL prop bets and anytime touchdown scores with myself, Jacob Smith. Just to get into it right away, obviously, week 1 had a crappy week 1. James Robinson, absolute bum. Never relying on that guy again. George Kittle let us down huge. They score 41 points, and somehow we don't get a touchdown out of Kittle. And obviously, our boy Adam Thielen came through with 2 touchdowns for us, so we cashed that one. So we were 1 for 3. Obviously, not the best start to week 1, but it is what it is. So we'll jump in here to the week 2 selections, get into the picks, why I like them, their prices, and just kind of why I like them pretty much. So here we go. First pick is Melvin Gordon, anytime touchdown scorer, coming in at minus 110 to plus 110 versus Jacksonville. So obviously we saw Jacksonville is maybe the worst team in the NFL, losing to the consensus worst team in the NFL, the Houston Texans. So I don't know how we don't take Melvin Gordon. Melvin Gordon had a huge run last week for the Broncos. Diontae Williams didn't really feature too much. He did feature a little bit, but Melvin Gordon's still the lead back there. That Jacksonville defense is horrendous. I think that Gordon will be able to run amok all over them. And I think it'll be easy pickings. I know I said this last week for James Robinson, but I couldn't have predicted that Jacksonville would be that bad on both sides of the ball. I thought that, with Trevor Lawrence, James Robinson, DJ Chark, Marvin Jones, that they had enough weapons to kind of, get them down to the red zone and just let's see James Robinson just punch one in there. But he didn't. He had 5 drops, and I just can't trust that Jacksonville offense or defense. So that's pretty much my reasoning with going with Melvin Gordon. Obviously, you can get Javonte Williams at a way better price. I think he was like plus 175 or plus 170 or something like that. But I just want to go with the surefire lead back, make sure we cash this bet. This is, again, my best bet of the week. I know last week the best bet didn't cash, but we're moving on from that. We're going to talk just about this week. And I just feel like Melvin Gordon, you can't go wrong. Every time people doubt this guy, he just comes back and shows that why he's one of the most consistent rushers in the NFL. Last year, another 1,000-yard season, top 10 in rushing. I think he was like a top 15 fantasy back for those people that are into the fantasy football. So I think he's just a good, stable weapon for the Broncos. I think they'll be feeding him a lot, and they'll probably be feeding Javonte Williams a lot with the game script. I expect the Broncos to kind of get up early and then just kind of grind the game out, run the ball, use that defense to get quick 3-and-outs and just keep working that clock. So for week 2, my best bet is going to be Melvin Gordon minus 110 to plus 110. So make sure you lock that in before the price moves. Last week, a couple of them, obviously we talked about last week. I recorded these on Fridays. Last week, a couple of the prices did move in our favor, and some of them didn't move in our favor. So you should probably lock these in as quick as you can if you think that the price is going to move. I think the one on Melvin Gordon on most places right now is plus 100. I think we could see that come down closer to Sunday to maybe minus 110, similar to the James Robinson situation where he was plus, I think, 110 on Friday. And then on my book by Sunday, he was minus 105. So just a little thought there. If you don't like lock, I was a big not locking bets in early, but I think if you're trying to chase some value, those are worth it, right? So moving on to the second pick, and this is Diontae Johnson of the Pittsburgh Steelers, anytime touchdown scorer, plus 150 to plus 170 against the Las Vegas Raiders. So they are home. Obviously, we saw what happened last week with the Steelers. They weren't overly impressive in the first half. I don't think they crossed the 50-yard line until I think it was maybe 10. No, it was more like 5 minutes into the third quarter. So they were really struggling on offense. Nobody looked like they were clicking. Pittsburgh came back. They won the game somehow. It wasn't the prettiest football, but they got the job done. Diontae Johnson cashed a touchdown last week. He only had 40 yards, but he was targeted 10 times. So I think that's a big thing for this bet is obviously you could go for the receptions. Last week he had 5, so they'll probably be set with the amount of targets he had, they'll probably be set around 5.5 or 6.5. So I feel like for me, the safe play here is the anytime touchdown score because against the Las Vegas Raiders last week, they did win against Baltimore, but Lamar Jackson might have looked like the best throwing QB he's looked in a long time in that game. Marquise Hollywood Brown was ripping them up. So I feel like Diontae Johnson with the targets, with the offense struggling last week, they're at home. They're playing a secondary that often struggles, and they have a lot of weapons. So there's no reason why the volume shouldn't continue for Johnson. And those potential touchdowns, we know Big Ben is looking for that number one wideout to stand out amongst the three of them, Juju, Smith-Schuster, Chase Claypool, and Diontae Johnson. I really like Chase Claypool this week too. I think that the price was pretty similar between the two, but just with the amount of targets that Diontae Johnson had in 10, and he had 5 of those for receptions in a day that they really struggled offensively and still scored a touchdown against a struggling secondary like Las Vegas, I feel like this is a pretty, I don't want to say it's a lock or a best bet because I gave you my best bet, but I think this is a really safe play. And I think it's a play that at the price at plus 150 or plus 170, like we're seeing on most books, you can't not bet that, right? And you can bet Chase Claypool too. There's nothing wrong with that. I think that 2 of the 3 of them will score in this game. I think Najee Harris will probably have a touchdown. I think the Pittsburgh offense is going to come out and really try to get rolling in this game. The offensive line was kind of weak against the Bills. The Bills defense last year was so. They were good, but they weren't great. And they looked pretty good through most of that football game until the Steelers came back. So I don't see how you can go wrong with Diontae Johnson here at the price. I feel like locking that in now is probably a little bit of a safer bet than later, like waiting on, like I was saying, for Melvin Gordon. I feel like at plus 170, where you're seeing him at like most books right now, that's a pretty strong price for a player that I think could easily have 70 yards and a touchdown in this game, no problem. Yeah, so I guess moving on to my third pick, and for this week we decided to do something different. Last week I had 3 anytime touchdown scores, and then I had like a value play if like you wanted to, like really kind of chase some odds. And I'm not gonna lie, like I said, I don't bet like 7, 8, 9, 10 anytime touchdown scores in a week. So it's hard for me to kind of sit here and give you guys, I'd say, like 4 anytime touchdown scores because it's hard, right? You don't know how the game script's going to go, like we talked about last week. You don't know what's going to happen in the game. And for me, I think finding 1 or 2 anytime touchdown scores that I really, really like will be a lot more beneficial to you guys than me kind of, like I said last week, I do like plus money, but I think it's also, I need to have a line where, I'm giving you guys plus money, but I'm also giving you guys picks that I would actually bet. And I'm putting like maybe like more than 1 unit on like things that I actually believe in, because I did believe in a lot of those picks last week, but the amount I was betting on them wasn't conducive to, like giving that many picks out. Like the ones I really believed in were Adam Thielen and James Robinson. And I think those were the ones that I talked about most. So for this week, I just decided, you know what? I'm going to give you guys 2 anytime touchdown scores that I really like, ones that I think can cash. And I'm going to give you guys a prop pick. And for my first prop pick of the show and week 2, it's going to be Jamar Chase over 58.5 receiving yards. That comes in at a minus 110 to a minus 118, and they're at the Chicago Bears. So obviously we all heard about Jamar Chase in the offseason and kind of what was going on, and then in the preseason, and then he had those comments about the football and just how the game's different, and people were really worried about kind of like what player Jamar Chase was going to go into the regular season as. Was he going to be a guy that was confident and had that connection with Joe Burrow like he did at Clemson, or was he going to be this guy that we saw in preseason that had a lot of drops, looked kind of timid and out of place? And in week 1 against, I think, a pretty good Minnesota Viking defense, I wouldn't say they're the best, but they do have a really, 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 really potent front 7, and they have okay secondary. They're not going to blow you away, but they do have an okay secondary. And the Bengals offensive line looked like they've been playing together for like 10 years, and they were one of the best in the league. Like I couldn't believe on some plays. Like last year, Joe Burrow was getting hit left, right, and center. And there was actually some times throughout the game where like Joey had time to drop back, survey the field, and pick out a pass. And we saw that in week 1, Jamar Chase had 110 yards receiving, and he had a touchdown. And I think I forget how long the touchdown was, but he had a big play touchdown that was the scoring play. So my reasoning this week with instead of going with Jamar Chase on an anytime touchdown score versus the receiving yards is we saw in the Chicago game that obviously they were prone to giving up big plays and big chunk plays in the throwing game. They lost a lot in their secondary. Kyle Fuller's obviously gone now. So with, I guess, the Bengals looking so good offensively last week, and I think that's going to continue into this week, they do have a lot of weapons. They have Joe Mixon. They have Tyler Boyd. They got obviously Jamar Chase and then T. Higgins, who I'm a really big fan of. And instead of risking, trying to get a touchdown from one guy out of those four really talented playmakers, let's go for the yards. Let's go for the over on the yards because it's 58.5. Last week he had 105. Like I said, the Bears are prone to giving up big plays. We saw through week one. Obviously, the Rams' offense is better than Cincinnati's. Their offensive line's better. They're just a better overall team. They're a better coach team. But I still think that we can see similar type plays, I guess, from the Bengals against the Chicago Bears. And it's going to be a divisional game, so everybody's going to be amped up, ready to go. It's Jamar Chase's first real big divisional game. Everybody knows that division's scrappy. Nobody in that division likes each other. Every game's a battle. So for me, I think the 58.5 is a pretty good lock. And for the price, it's varying. I'm not going to lie. I've seen it at, like I said, -110 there, and I've seen it to -120, but that was only on one book where it was -120. So this price is probably going to vary. And that to me kind of, again, makes me want to lock this in a little bit earlier than later, just because the books don't know kind of there's no consensus price on this. I've seen it at different prices across the board. I've seen it at -115 at a couple books. So I think this one, if you can find a price that you like closer to the -110, then you might as well lock it in now, because I think it is going to change. And I think we are going to lose some value on that. And again, I think this is the type of format I think I'm going to bring you guys from now on, where it's maybe one anytime touchdown score, two, and one prop pick or two prop picks, instead of trying to, chase the value with the anytime touchdown scores, because there is a lot of those. And like I said, I do bet them, but I don't bet them like crazy, like 9, 10, like that. But I'm not going to lie, like there was most of the anytime touchdown scores that I cashed this weekend, I didn't give out his picks. It was on the day of. I'm looking through, I'm reading, impulse, not impulse, but kind of like I got a feeling like, okay, like I like the way this game's shaping up, and I like what I'm hearing, and I'm liking what the coach is saying about him, and I just lock it in. Where on Friday, like I'm doing research, I'm kind of projecting for Sunday, like how things are going to go, and just not really sure like who's going to be active on Sunday. So for me, I'd rather give you guys like the surefire picks on guys that I think, I like the matchup. Like they're not carrying an injury designation going into the week, and they're guys that I know contribute to their team. So if you like this format a little bit more, just let me know down in the comment section. Just if you'd rather see like more prop picks or more anytime touchdown scores, or maybe a little bit of both. Like I'm not here to kind of like keep track and be like, oh, I'm the best bookie, or I'm the best sharp, or I'm the best handicapper. Like I like to bet for fun. The boys know, like I took a big hiatus on betting for like our standards, and the boys that are betting, like I really like NFL. I really enjoy the prop picks. I do bet games somewhat, but I enjoy like cheering on the individual players than relying on the outcome of a game. So that's why I thought this format would be a little bit better. But if you have any suggestions or anything, just let me know down in the comments section. And make sure to check us out, Mayflower Sports, on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, all that good stuff. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Speaker. We're doing a bunch of content. We're getting more into the football content as the season goes on. We're coming today with the interview with the AUS executive director of the executive director of Athletic University Sports, our AUS, Phil Curry. So we're doing a bunch of different things. We're hosting a golf tournament, like I said, last week, October 1st. So just make sure you tune in and check us out. There's going to be a bunch of more betting content. I know at the start, we weren't doing too much betting content. We kind of wanted to get our feet wet with the podcast and just kind of see how that was going. But you're definitely going to see more betting content from us. I know Octagon Thoughts, Harry, big NFL bettor. Last night, I actually cashed a plus 2,400 Daniel Jones first TD score. So I know he's been itching to kind of get into a little bit of prop bets. So maybe next week, me and Harry can come on. I can give you 3 picks. He can give you 3 picks, and just roll with it and just kind of keep going with the fun. I'm enjoying this, and I think it's a good way to kind of get into the betting scene. It's new here. It's coming officially pretty soon, and I think it's just good just to kind of have a little fun, throw like 10, 15, $20 down on anytime touchdown score and give a reason to watch the game. But that's all for me today. Thank you for checking us out. Thank you for checking me out. Hopefully this week we have a better week. We can go 3 for 3 instead of 1 for 3. Like I said, I can't stress enough how mad I was about James Robinson. Harry, Octagon Thoughts, as a Jaguar fan, I think I was mad at him the whole day because of James Robinson. And just seeing George Kittle not score a touchdown in like an 80-point game just blew my mind. But we're not going to harp on the past. I think we got 3 winners this week. So I look forward to coming to you guys next Friday. Hopefully we can discuss a little bit about winners instead of me ranting about losers. And I'm out. Peace.